So, No Man's Sky is now out and a lot of people seem to be a little bit disappointed by it in some form or another. Why, you may ask that? Why are people not as excited about the game now as they were a while ago? Well, to answer that, this is the top 7 ways No Man's Sky has been ruined. A show dedicated to the reasons why No Man's Sky has a tough journey ahead of it and will probably serve as a word of warning for people that jump on bandwagons. Now, before you start with the death threats in the comments, at least watch the whole video. That being said, let's get this started with number 7, the price. When you sell a game for 60 euros, there are certain expectations of that game. When people see a price tag that big, they tend to expect a certain kind of game. Granted, they never actually get it. I mean, most 60 euro games tend to be crap like The Order 1866 that has 3 hours of gameplay and 2 hours of cinematics. But still, people expect a certain kind of game. One that's evolved, one that's fleshed out, one that's not what you're getting from an early access game that's been on Steam since 2014, which is quite frankly the kind of game that No Man's Sky actually is. It's backed by Sony and Sony's incredible marketing, but at its core, it's still an indie game, a small survival indie game sold at a huge premium, and there's a chance it will get paid DLC down the line, because why wouldn't it? It's sold already a bunch of bajillion copies, so there's money to be made from it without a doubt. Number 6. No multiplayer. Okay, sure, it has a $60 price, but at least there's multiplayer in it, right? There's not. Even though it has been repeatedly stated, like repeatedly confirmed to exist, there actually isn't a multiplayer mode. We've seen people travel to the exact same planet at the exact same time, looked up at the exact same sky, so the exact same other planet with the exact same features on it. Everything was exactly the same, which is impossible unless they were the exact same place. After all, this is a procedurally generated world, so unless this was like the one in an infinite chance that 2 identical locations were generated in 2 identical star systems with identical names, unless that happened, then 2 players should have seen each other. Granted, since March, the developers have backtracked a lot when it comes to multiplayer. Like they've said, well, no, actually it's not about multiplayer, it's about connectivity-ness, which is kind of like multiplayer, right? It's not. Number 5, the press coverage. Now, being a fellow media whore, I have some insight into this. You see, sometimes an event happens, something popular starts to appear, it starts trending on social media, so naturally, the media, the normal non-social media, the anti-social media, gobbles it up and starts regurgitating it. And that's what they did with No Man's Sky. Thing is, they had no idea what the game was, like at all, so every time they wrote an article about it, they just said, it's gonna be the most amazing game ever, look, click on this will confirm your bias. And they offered no information. They were as vague as possible and never actually tried to answer some of the burning questions that the players had, like, what's this game about? What do you do in it? No, instead they put, No Man's Sky defies the industry. No Man's Sky establishes new order of the world. No Man's Sky is Jesus, to get clicks, with no actual goddamn content. And that really served to drive up the hype train that, derailed about a week ago and caused a lot of casualties. Number 4, the developer's vagueness. Sean Murray has been the spokesperson for Hello Games in regards to No Man's Sky, and he has done a very good job at making this game seem interesting. He's driven the hype for it so far high that it couldn't have lived up to it no matter what he did, no matter how the game shaped up, because he said 0 actual facts about what you do in it. All he said is that, well, you fly around in space, you land on planets, and then mystery, vagueness. It's a whole universe. You can do whatever you want. Anything, really. I'm just gonna be vague about it. Not go into detail about anything, ever. Even when directly asked about something, vague. It's the, J.J. Abrams' method of doing stuff with movies, like Star Trek Into Darkness, which was crap, Lost, which was crap. You get the idea. That vagueness sort of made people think, could he be referring to what I'm thinking he's referring? Is this a game where I can hunt inflatable giraffes with a harpoon made of squids? That probably is what he means. He just said it's a game where you can do anything you want and it procedurally generates an infinite universe, so everything in it must be possible. It's not. Number 3, the developer's anti-consumer attitude. Now, being vague is one thing. Yeah, we get it. It's a way to build hype. Yeah, okay, I get it. But being actually anti-consumer is another thing. And this is not just about repeatedly lying about there being multiplayer and PvP, and lying about other stuff like, oh, what? Our demonstration wasn't scripted. No, that giant dinosaur just ran through the screen in the forest. Because he was procedurally generated to do so. And yeah, the animals do eat each other. Yeah, we no way just made it up. I mean, look at that butterfly, it's so nice. It's not just about the lies, it's about willfully discouraging people from becoming informed about what the game actually is. When copies of the game started to be leaked by the distributors, sold through eBay with a lot of money, they've told people to not look at the videos. Because, oh, we filled this game with mysteries and you don't want to spoil those mysteries, do you? Well, if it's a procedurally generated game, you probably won't run instantly into the mystery, so it's okay to look at least at how the gameplay works, right? But then no, the gameplay itself is the mystery! And they've not only discouraged people from looking at those videos so they won't ruin the experience, they've instituted takedowns of videos, just so they would stop people knowing what the game is before it being released. They haven't even given out review copies, just so they made sure that day one sales weren't affected by people finding out that the game actually is what it is. They've been anti-consumer to a point where I'm starting to believe that these people may actually be Electronic Arts or Warner Brothers in disguise. Like, if this was one of those companies telling you stuff like this, refusing review copies, people would be up in arms. But because it's an indie developer screwing you, yeah, it's okay. Number 2, you turned it into a goddamned religion. You see, No Man's Sky could have been a neat little game where you could visit a planet that's filled with dildos, with legs and a big eye. It could have been an amusing game where you could go around visiting various places filled with flying buffalo even when you weren't high. But you people, I'm especially talking to the people that started with the death threats at the beginning of the video, you people turned it into a goddamn religion. You declared years ago that this game is sacred, that this game is beyond doubt, beyond criticism, this game is infallible, this game is Jesus Christ reborn mixed with Optimus Prime. You've done your goddamn best to crush people that at any time started to wonder, so in this game, what exactly do you do? I mean, it looks like you go around collecting resources to power your ship. And you would go, no, the great Sean Murray said that if you do not want to collect resources, you never have to. So it is written, so it is said, so it is done, off to the gallows with you. Because that's what Sean Murray actually said, that if you don't want to collect resources, you don't have to. But fuel is a resource. You can't even take off a planet without consuming it for your thrusters. And you continuously go after people that show any sort of disappointment or try to criticize the game. Oh, and for the people who can't differentiate, this isn't a review, you goddamn assholes. Learn a language, any language. Learn words, what they mean. And hey, I get it. This is probably the first game you've seen that generates worlds at that level. You're 12. You haven't experienced games before. To you, this game is Jesus. Sort of like, well, there's a saying in my country which I don't believe I can actually repeat on YouTube without getting this video instantly banned, but let's just say that with age, some things will become less spectacular than when you see them first. For you see, this isn't the first game to actually do this. We've had Spore before, which started on a similar goddamn hype train. Though actually that game had mechanics in it that were interesting, only they stripped them out to make it more kid-friendly, you know, for the morons. Not because kids are morons, kids can actually be quite smart, but if you treat them as morons, that's what they'll grow up to be. So instead of getting a game that was complex, we got a shallow, crappy experience that still, honestly, had a space stage that's kinda more interesting than No Man's Sky. And even after Spore, you have Elite Dangerous, you have Star Maid, you have Star Citizen, who's shaping up to be something good, I hope. You have that Infinite Universe thing, you have Evocron, you have a goddamn metric ton of similar games. Ones that you don't know anything about because you are probably 12. And you are now actually too busy evangelizing how this game is the second coming of the first time you saw boobies to try any of those other games. So if you wanna blame someone for ruining No Man's Sky, look in the mirror. Unless you're a vampire, in that case, we shall meet at midnight, please. And the number one thing that ruined No Man's Sky is that it's not really that interesting. This is more or less a resource gathering survival game. Not a really interesting one. Oh sure, it's also a space game, a shallow one, an incredibly shallow space game. I've played things that are oh so old, that have more depth to them in the space stage. I'm a veteran of the X series. Do you really expect me to take seriously a space game that doesn't even let me look around the cockpit? Also looking at you, X Rebirth, you know what you did, you goddamn bastard. And the ground stuff, yeah, going into a cave is nice, looking at it, scanning the different creatures and laughing at how nature was very mean to them is fun. And oh yeah, collecting the languages, the words for the languages, visiting monoliths, yeah, that's okay. And collecting billions and billions of tons of resources you need to build stuff and mostly refuel your ship, that's kind of crappy. I can't even build a giant penis. This isn't Minecraft in space. This isn't even Don't Starve Together in space because you're alone and you don't eat. This is just pointless busy work in space. So it's like Elite Dangerous but alone and not that fun. You know what would have made this game actually interesting? The ability to kidnap animals and take them to your own planetary zoo, where you could make them fight each other and do Pokemon stuff things to them because, you know, Pokemon Go is cool and we have to mention it at least once a week or the universe explodes. The ability to actually do some goddamn massive changes to planets. Spore had this. In Spore, you could butt-fuck an entire planet and do whatever the hell you wanted to it. You were a space-level race. You could do downright horrible stuff to planets and the races that inhabited them. Here, no, you can make a hole, and that's it. Slowly with your beam, can you hijack someone else's ship? I mean, there's a ton of them at those space stations that have 2 doors and 1 attendant. No, you can't do that either. You can't do a lot of things that would seem cool in this game, can you? You can't even manually land your ship. It just sort of goes down after you press the land button. And it's slow. My god, is it tedious and slow. With limited inventory, limited running, limited jetpack, limited everything. It's like they never actually wanted you to have any sort of fun. Which again, we already have Elite Dangerous that does the whole lack of fun when exploring because you got blown up by someone you had no idea was coming for you while you were taking pictures of a black hole. And you'll probably actually deny that No Man's Sky has any flaws, as stated in the previous number. You consider it to be Jesus. Well, then there's nothing I can do for you but hope they actually patch in the stuff that should have been in the game, like multiplayer, and the giant animals, because although Sean Murray said he was surprised no one's found any of the giant sandworm creatures yet, I starting to think, are they really in the game? Because it seems to me like I've got a bit of a hunch that they may not actually be in this build of the game. Well, that's it for the top 7 ways that No Man's Sky has been ruined. Tune in next time where I explain exactly why everything you like is horrible.
If you enjoyed this show, hit the like button, subscribe and share it with your friends. Or, if you thought it was horrible, then share it with your enemies and make them suffer. We shall be your weapon of vengeance. But if you liked what you saw, you could, I don't know, maybe donate, because basically YouTube is horrible at revenue, by using the link in the description, or just buy my book. It's a fantasy book about, well, a lot of stuff. I guarantee it won't suck, and if it does suck, you can find me here and complain about it.